When I tell you growing pains when it comes to this vlogging thing, I just filmed 50% of this vlog vertically. Oh my gosh, I'm so angry at myself. Welcome to my first vlog. This vlog, I'm basically going to be ranting and raving about the Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu. The last time I spoke to you guys, I hadn't even started this series, and I am on book 3. This series is so good. I don't know why more people don't talk about the Dandelion Dynasty. So just a brief rundown of the Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu. It's a series of 4 novels that is inspired by the Han Dynasty and the Chu Han contention in Chinese history. It's set in a silk punk world, which is a genre and a term that Liu coined himself. It's essentially Chinese historical narratives blended with Western themes in a fantasy setting with advancing technology. And I fear it may be one of my new favorite genres and things to read. The first book in the series is The Grace of Kings, and I ate it up so quickly. It was so good, and I couldn't help but to jump into the next book. I know this might be a crazy thing to say, but because I'm not all the way finished, but I think this is going to be top 3 series of all time for me. I'm not quite sure where it's going to place with Between Earth and Sky series by Rebecca Roanhorse or the Broken Earth series by N.K. Jemisin, but it's definitely up there. I'm just so appreciating the story, the setting, the characters. Ken Liu knows how to write women. Like, you can just tell that he is a girl dad. He writes women so spectacularly. Women that are in this series are some of my favorite women that I have ever read. And I know that that's saying a lot, but it is so true. And this series honestly reminds me of like the Greenbone saga in the way that it's over generations and you're seeing families grow and build over time. So I started out with The Grace of Kings, which is mostly political intrigue. There's a lot of war going on. But then in book 2, The Wall of Storms, at the beginning you get a little sprinkling of the fantasy elements, and then they explode by the end of that book, going into the 3rd book, which is The Veiled Throne, which is what I'm reading right now. You can just see the intention with his storytelling and his world building. And everything just comes together so beautifully, and I'm not even finished yet. I just can't wait to see how the rest of the story unfolds. I could talk about the series all day. So it wasn't until I finished the first book and I was just like, I need to get physical copies of these. Did I realize how big these books are? Like, they are tomes, they are massive. And I finished the 2nd book, which is The Wall of Storms, and then I jumped into the 3rd one, which is The Veiled Throne, because I'm doing them in tandem with audio. That one is 10 hours longer than book 2. And I'm flying through them. I'm having so much fun, and it's kind of bittersweet because I don't want to fly through them. I kind of want to savor them, but I can't stop. I can't put on the brakes, and I'm not going to. I've also been listening to them with historical Chinese music on in the background, and it's so funny how, like, when certain scenes are happening or certain emotional moments are happening, the music tends to like build and swell perfectly along with it. It's like not on purpose because I'm just pressing play on YouTube, but it's just like such an appreciated happy accident. It's making the experience so much more immersive, and it's like really bringing that world to life. Like Dara, the land in which most of these books take place, is one of my new favorite places to be. And I truly feel like I'm like there with the people. It's like it's amazing. But I went down a rabbit hole of Ken Liu and his works, and I don't know if you guys have seen it, but there's a show called Pantheon that's on AMC, and it's about like computative immortality, and it's based off a collection of his short stories. And I love that series. I was like, no wonder I love it, because I love this man's work. It's amazing. And if you've ever seen Love, Death, Robots on Netflix, there's an episode that is inspired by one of his short stories. I also started The Paper Menagerie, which is one of his collections of short stories. And when I tell you, from the introduction, bar after bar after bar, I was highlighting pieces of the introduction and I hadn't even gotten into the stories yet. This is my new obsession, so I apologize in advance. This is me rambling, by the way. There was like things that I had actually planned to say. Let's see what I have here in my notes. I'm suffering but enjoyed myself. Very, very true. Absolutely true. Looks like I said most of everything off the top of the dome. Please pick up these books. If you love epic fantasy, if you love steampunk, I feel like you'll appreciate silkpunk as well. Speaking of a pantheon, I didn't even think about that. There is a pantheon in the Dandelion Dynasty. So you're seeing the perspective of things from the mortals and humans on Earth, and you're also seeing things happening from above the earth with the gods and the goddesses, and how all of those things are kind of working together. It's giving Sinbad. Sinbad or the Book of Life, if you've seen either of those animated movies, how basically like the gods each have a champion and they're like basically like in cahoots with each other and against other gods, trying to see which champion will win the day or win the war. And it's just so interesting to see not only how the gods' decisions shape the humans and their path, but how the humans shape the gods in return as well. And I think because of his history with translation, specifically Taoism, all of those sentiments are also apparent in the writing. There is a heavy emphasis on academia. Like, I don't know if anybody has said this, but the second book to me, which is The Wall of Storms, was giving dark academia. Like, there were moments in the story where the student is talking to her teacher and he's asking her questions, and I'm pausing reading so that I could, what answer would I come up with? Like, I felt like I was sitting there on the bamboo with the student learning from her teacher in the same way. And I love that level of immersive storytelling, and it's so intentional and it's so much fun, and you need to read these books. Everybody needs to read these books if you love epic fantasy. If you're fans, like I said, of Brandon Sanderson, of Robin Hobb, of J.R.R. Martin, of Tolkien, you need to read The Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu. I could rant about this all day, so I'm so sorry. I'm just going to stop here. I'm just going to stop. rfkuang just posted this. I need Catabasis in my hands. I am a huge fan of her work. I love all of her books. Babel is one of my top 5 favorites of all time, and I'm so excited for her return to fantasy and academia. Catabasis is about 2 PhD or grad students who are on a quest to hell to retrieve their professor who has died under mysterious circumstances so that he can return to life and write them stellar recommendations, and they can't stand him. I don't even know, like, I'm just so excited for the themes of this story, like what the overarching message is going to be. I love rfkuang. I feel like I learned so much when I'm reading her books. So excited. I read this like 5 times. I don't know what it means. I don't know what the end of that sentence is, but I still read it 5 times. Last year, HarperCollins invited a few influencers to their offices, and they gave them like either the first chapter or the first couple chapters of Catabasis, and I wasn't in attendance, and I have been beating myself up ever since, and I have been so jealous. So I can't wait for this book to come out. Hopefully I can get my hands on an advanced copy. I will keep you guys posted if that's the case. But wow, I am so excited. They're like physically in this world. More updates from my reading. Even though I want to do this on a weekly basis, and these books that I'm going to talk about, I didn't quite read this week. I read them before I started vlogging, so they're just going to go into this week's update. For my book club, which is the Written Reveries book club, I have it on Fable, but with everything going on, I've been more active on my Discord, so I'm going to just see how everything plays out and see how I feel about everything, because it's so hard to bring people over from one platform to the next. So I feel like I have a different set of people on TikTok that I have on Instagram, that I have on Fable, that I have on my Discord. Feel free to join my Discord. You're reading This Poison Heart by Callum Bayron. I don't know what took me so long to get to this book, but this is a feminist sapphic retelling of The Secret Garden. I loved that book and film as a kid, probably like my millennial childhood. I remember it being like on a disc with the Little Princess on the other side. But that story to me was so like eerie yet whimsical, and I really just felt so much empathy for the characters and all that they were going through. This book is so good. I really enjoyed the emphasis on ancestral magic as well as the spin on the garden and how that went into Bree's powers. And it's so funny because I was talking about how I love this series. It was giving me the vibes of like Legendborn. And then I looked a little bit closer. I don't know if you guys can really see at the top of the book, but there is a blurb from Miss Tracy Dion herself, Mesmerizing and Beautiful. I agree. I read this in one day. Basically, this young woman is adopted. She lives with her 2 moms, and she is reached out to about an estate that is now hers to own based off the passing of her last family member of her birth family. And they go to this, decrepit house with this decrepit garden, and things start to unfold there. So after reading this Poisoned Heart in one day, I jumped right into This Wicked Fate, which is the second part of this duology, and all of the groundwork that Callan Bayron laid out in first book explodes in this book. The first book ends on a cliffhanger, and this perfectly executed the task that was at hand. You also see a lot more about the ancestral magic, as well as the history behind everything, and how mythology and the deities that are in this world tie into the story as well. My favorite things about retellings is how an author can take a story that you love and add more themes that add a different level of importance to something that may have just been a fun story. Because there was so much that I did learn from The Secret Garden, but this brought it into another light, and also was in a way that me as a Black woman who used to be a young Black girl really appreciated. It's about coming into your own, about doing what you think is right, coming into your power, and I just love this series so much. This is one of my new favorite series. I love that it's a duology. Now I need to read more Callan Bayron. I own all of her books aside from her remix of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. I think it's like Dear Mr. Henry or something along those lines. But I need to get to Cinderella is Dead and then Sleep Like Death next, because the only book of hers that I have read is You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight. And I love that story. That was like her summer slasher. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, let me know if you guys have read this duology or any of her other works. But I highly recommend, if you love The Secret Garden, if you love ancestral magic, plant magic, apothecaries, all those things. This is nice. So with 2025 already being a stress-induced year with election decisions and ban decisions, I wanted to bring in the year with something more lighthearted. So while I had been reading Chain Gang All-Stars by Nana Kwame Adjei at the end of the year, I took a break, and that's when I picked up this Poisoned Heart and then had to finish that duology. But on January 3rd, after I finished those two books in 2 days, I picked this back up, and this is such an important read. The first thing that I will say is please check the trigger warnings. This book is a criticism on the prison system here in America, and as a Black American, I was already aware of the issues with it, as well as our prison industrial complex. But this is such a needed read for maybe people who don't understand, so they can maybe take a different perspective on it by looking at it through the lens of this book. In this book, prisoners are given the opportunity to fight for their lives and their freedom in a gladiator-style sports game to the death, and it is broadcasted all over the United States. And it's just a sickening but much needed view of how people are taken advantage of, and how our system is quite literally modern day slavery. This is from multiple POVs, so you get to see it from the perspective of the prisoners, from the people who are part of the industry and how they benefit from it, from protesters who want to enact change, as well as the fans that see it for what they think is face value. And it was just such a poignant take on what's happening right now in the world. And like I said, if you understand what's going on, this is an important read. And if you don't understand, this is an even more important read for you. But some of the POVs were so frustrating to watch. I feel like I was watching. I did this in tandem with audio thanks to Panga Random Mouse Audio. But it was so frustrating to read, especially the perspective of like the fans as well as the people that were benefiting within the system itself, because they really thought that they were doing the right thing. They think that they're rooting for the character, that they think that they care for these characters. But at the end of the day, it was no different than, how a lot of people in our world view athletes. Like, they don't have their best interest at heart. They only care about winning the game from their perspective, and they want their team to win. It also was a look at parasocial relationships and how you can think that you have the best interest of someone in mind, but if you don't know who they are, how could you possibly know? The characters, especially the prisoners, were such three-dimensional characters, and you got to see, there were flashbacks of like their past, how they got to be in prison, their thought process as they're in the system, and the lengths that they'll go to get out of it. And the two main characters, it was Hurricane Stacks and Loretta Thurwar. And they are two prisoners who are in love. They are on the same team, essentially. And they are fighting both for their freedom until something within the system changes. And they have to make decisions that are for not only their benefit, but the benefit of all of the other gladiators that will come behind them. And it's absolutely heart-wrenching. It's just so sad because a lot of these prisoners that are seen as less than, or in the eyes of their fans, have been immortalized or just people. It's so ironic how, depending on what POV you're in, how these individuals are viewed. A deep character study about the people who are in these positions and the people who put them in these positions and what their thought processes are. This is a very hard read, but it's very, very important. Damn, I don't know why it took so long to read this book. I mean, I was clearly afraid. I was scared. And within good reason. This was a hard one. And no spoilers, but at the end of this book, I reread it multiple times because I was just like, what did I just read? What did I just read? And then when it finally clicked, I stared at this closet. I just stared at it for a long time. That's all I'm going to say. This is going to stay with me. And then also, even though this is like speculative fiction and nothing made me as infuriated as this since I think I've read like, The Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. All of the POVs come together seamlessly in such a spectacular and intentional way. And I never would have thought that would be the case with this type of book. And when you see everything come together, it's such a bittersweet thing because it's just like, wow, this is such a beautiful, horrible book. Not horrible because it's poorly written, but just the depictions of humanity. It's like the Ouroboros or like the picture of Dorian Gray, like looking into your reflection and seeing yourself for who you truly are. Like, humanity is gross and I hate it. Spectacular. 5 stars. Definitely going to be in the top 10 reads of the year for me. I'm like still just like looking at it and thinking about it. But yeah, I need to read the rest of his work. I need to read Friday Black. But Nana Kwame Adjei is an auto-buy author for me. This book is important. Check the trigger warnings, but you need to read it. Quick reading update. I'm still making my way through The Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu. I am in the middle of the 3rd book, The Veiled Throne. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like when I'm reading a book and they are on an epic quest and a journey, I feel all the fatigue. If they've been on the ocean for days or weeks, I feel it. I am so stressed. No spoilers, but there are new things to uncover in this book. And I am so spent being on this journey with them, but in the best way. I have my this. Clearly you can see my ugly arm here. This book is just so good to me. It's good to me and it's good to me. Heading to BJ's to grab some stuff, but I'm also going to take a look at some books while I'm there. So let's see what they've got. Not seeing much, you guys. Sometimes I get lucky, but not usually. The kid stuff looks good. Let's see. Like nothing. Oh, I tried. So I just got back from BJ's and their book selection wasn't the greatest. I've had a lot better luck in past times. I did see a couple of books that I would be interested in, but I've already got them. So I saw a paperback of The Reformatory by Tanarave Due. And then I also saw, what's the name of it? I have to look. I'll put it over here. It's basically a Jodi Picoult book, but it's like a Shakespearean retelling, like a feminist one. I was interested in that, but the price wasn't giving BJ's. It was giving like Barnes and Noble. I don't know if you guys got a chance to read the article from Vulture about Neil Gaiman, but I was absolutely disgusted. He was one of my favorite authors. I resonated with his comics, with a few of his novels, and he was like one of the male authors that I like championed, and I would always like add him in my favorites lists. I just want to let you guys know that it's always going to be an easy decision for me to choose not to promote problematic authors, regardless of my history with them. In this instance, it's cut and dry, absolutely vile. But even in instances when I'm not the affected community, it just seems like the right thing to do. Anything that I could ever gain by continuing to promote them just doesn't seem worth it to me. So all of his books are off of my shelves. I don't even know if I even want to sell them. I might just like toss them, burn them. I have no idea what I want to do. You guys let me know what you guys think I should do because I have a lot of his stuff, like a huge box filled. But so disappointed. I feel for the victims. I hope that they can find peace and they get the justice that they deserve. But dang, why can't we have nice things? Why can't the authors that we love and admire be as good as their work presents them to be? But hey, I'm not nearly as traumatized as the people that are his victims, so I have no room to complain, but just absolutely disappointed for sure. Just wanted to touch on that for a second. If you guys do decide that you want to read the article, please be very wary because it's every trigger that you could possibly think of, and it's exactly as bad as you think it is. Like, deplorable behavior, an insane person, throw him under the jail. It's later on in the week, and I'm still making my way through the Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu. I'm reading the third book still, which is The Veiled Throne, and it's really good. It's really long, and I just can't help but still think about the second book, which is The Wall of Storms, and it had me thinking, I can't remember the last time where the second book in a series, whether it be like a quartet or trilogy or even a longer series, where the second book is my favorite book. I feel like it takes like such talent. Anyways, I'm just still like reeling on this series. I'm loving it so much. So I'll continue to keep you guys posted. But I did get some book mail over the week and I wanted to share that with you. So Tor sent me the new paperback copies of the Murderbot Diaries. I've read the first two in this series and I really enjoyed them. They're so much fun. I resonate with Murderbot so much with what he wants to do and what he has to do. And he's so funny. I love his humor. I love his existential crises on a daily basis and resonate with him just wanting to watch his soaps all day. But these covers are stunning. This is the first one, and I'm super excited for the Apple TV adaptation. I love... Which Skarsgård is it? I know it's the one from True Blood. Alexander? Hey Google, what was Alexander Skarsgård in?
On the website tv.apple.com, they say, he is best known for his roles as Brad, Iceman, Colbert in the miniseries Generation Kill, Eric Northman in the television series Alexander. Perry Wright.
Thanks, Google.
You're very welcome.
Always say thank you to your AI assistants. You never know. And then we've got volume 2, which is Exit Strategy. Volume 1 was Artificial Condition. And then I have yet to get to System Collapse. So I'll keep y'all posted as I make my way through this series. I also was gifted a finished copy of Watermoon by Samantha Sotomayor. This book is so good. I read an arc of this over the summer and it is sticking with me. I keep thinking about the world and the characters. This is Through the Looking Glass meets Spirited Away meets Before the Coffee Gets Cold. I don't want to say any more than that because the experience and seeing how everything unfolds is such a huge part of this experience, but highly recommend. I think this is going to be like the next big thing. And as you can see, like on the cover, there's like origami boats on the water. And on the other side of the dust jacket, you can actually turn it into an origami boat. And these are the two main characters. I received an advanced copy of Death of the Author by Nnedi Okorafor while I was in Shows in the City in June of last year while I was in New York City, and I had to pick up, actually pre-ordered the finished copy. This is such a stunning edition. There are sprayed edges. I always appreciate when an edition has a nod to the story itself, and underneath the dust jacket is the story that the author Zelu wrote within the book itself. This is like a futuristic sci-fi. I just love his little robot face. This is so pretty. So this is the dust jacket, and I couldn't find a place on my shelf that perfectly matched it, so I took it off. And I'm placing it right here next to Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell because it matches the shelf better. So I just have to make sure that I take care of this. Does anybody have any hints as to what to do with your dust jackets when they're not on your books? Because I just have like a pile of them together, and I wish I could put them in a safe place. Maybe I need to make something. The last book that I got is Hamajang Luck by Makana Yamamoto. This was Illumicrate's pick for December. This is a futuristic sci-fi. The main character is just finishing up her time in prison after she was betrayed by someone she trusted. She is offered early parole, and when she gets out, the person that's waiting for her is the person who sold her out, offering her one more mission, one more heist. 8 misfits, 2 X's, one last heist. Look at the stenciled edges. This edition is absolutely stunning. I love the holographic dust jacket as well as the schematics under the dust jacket. This edition is so pretty. I had to put it with all of my sci-fi. So this is actually going to go on the same shelf with the Murderbot Diaries. I'm in a Illumicrate rep for the next few months, so I'll make sure to put my code below if you guys want to save a few dollars. I'm not going to show you everything that I got in the box, but I'm going to show you guys one more thing that I got because I was so excited about it. All right. Oh! I have a stack of books next to me. I actually have multiple stacks and they just fell over. What a jump scare. I also got the calendar. I love the calendar. It's necessary to get the December box because you need the calendar for the next year. But we received a new Illumicrate mug. The fandom is right by my face over here. It's the cut and carve mug, and it's the No Peak clan from the Greenbone saga. These characters I think about on a weekly basis. I think about their futures, their children. I love this mug. I love this series. So super excited about this as well. So as this week draws to a close, I'm excited about the Dandelion Dynasty. I'm excited about my No Peak Clan mug from Illumicrate. I've also been obsessed with my Awala water bottle. This is the Magnolia Hearth and Hand edition, one of them. Ever since I got this, I don't drink anything else. And it's been doing wonders. Like, I've just been reading my books, minding my business, drinking my water. If you've made it this far into my first vlog, I appreciate you so much. I appreciate all of the comments from my last video and the welcome that you guys have given me to BookTube. Please subscribe if you want more content from me, and I will continue to read my books, keep you guys posted, and I'll see y'all in the next vlog.